as somebody who was obsessed with the Peter Pan story to the point where I've reread the book multiple times, and I love the original Disney version of Peter Pan, and then even Peter Pan Return to Neverland, which wasn't my favorite, but I loved the ending so much. I watched Peter Pan and Wendy last night, and I didn't hate it. Okay, we're gonna get into this, but fair warning, there are going to be spoilers ahead. So, Wendy in this interpretation is very different from our classic, more feminine Wendy. But I think with the way Disney's been handling their remakes, I was more prepared for them to have Wendy take on this sort of role. So I don't think I was outraged a lot as much as some of the other viewers were saying that Wendy's qualities laid in her, feminine nature and how she dealt with the lost boys, how she dealt with them gently enough to remind them of it like a motherly figure to entice them to go home. And Wendy in the classic tale as well is sort of like that motherly, sisterly figure for the lost boys and her brothers. In this one, however, she's more aggressive.
Why did you say it was our fault? You're a pirate, aren't you? It's every man for himself.
She's edgier, and I feel like a lot of people have quoted and said that she's unlikable, like downright unlikable, and I just don't think that's true. Like, there are some moments that made me go, okay, that was a little mean, but I wouldn't say that the character was downright unlikable. I also like the actress that they picked for her, and I think she played the part really well. I also really like Judas Law in the role for Hook, who I believe just gave it his all. I think it was the best performance in Peter Pan and Wendy. I'm just not understanding the hate that it's receiving. One thing I will agree is Peter Pan, like the child actor that they selected for Peter Pan, maybe he wasn't the best choice. And I know a lot of people are talking about this, and also saying that I don't want to bash a child actor, but maybe he wasn't the best fit for it because he delivered all his lines so stoically, like his expression never changed. It's like he was reading from a script. So I get where they were coming from. Like, that wasn't the strongest Peter Pan. Like, Peter Pan basically is supposed to steal the show, which he did in the classic movie. Every time he was on screen, your eyes were like glued to the character. He was this mischievous, funny, yet sort of like really charming and courageous kind of a guy. And we just didn't get that. We just got like a more duller, weaker version of Peter, which I wasn't the biggest fan of. Again, this movie wasn't the best, of course, nowhere near. But as far as Disney remakes go, I would wager that this is one of their better ones. And I just simply don't understand the hate that it's receiving, to be very honest, because Disney has put out some really bad remakes out there, and this is nowhere nearly as bad as like the others. I also like the fact that they basically didn't just adapt from the original Disney movie. They actually took the original story into account, and it has a lot of themes, a lot of details taken from the original play, the book, the story itself, and also the Disney film as well. So it pays homage to the Disney film, but it also takes a lot of things from the story itself, like that scene when Peter asks Wendy what is a kiss and he's not sure. In the Disney film, Wendy wants to give him a kiss, indicating that maybe there's a possibility of a little crush there.
I think I'll give you a kiss.
What's a kiss?
Oh, well, I'll show you.
And it's kind of adorable. But in this one, she gives him like a little thimble.
What's a kiss?
You don't know what a kiss is?
No, but I think I need one.
But, this is a kiss.
Which is from the book, which when I saw it, I was like so excited because I'm just like, oh my god. I like that they added like depth to the character. I also like Hook's and Peter Pan's relationship in this one a little bit more because it's given a lot more depth. And I know people have been complaining that Disney has been, changing up their villains and humanizing them, and what happened to the villains being bad just for the sake of being bad. I am all for that. Those kind of villains are a good time. However, for this story to make sense, let's put it this way, right? It's a live action. you have an actual adult grown man attacking a maybe 11-year-old, 12-year-old boy. Not just attacking him, attacking to kill him. How do you justify that in a live action? It's not a cartoon where, some wacky humor and all of those details are brushed aside. Captain Hook in the original Disney film is a little bit more wacky, and that works for the medium of storytelling. In this one, it just doesn't work. The tone is definitely very different. It's more darker, and so the storylines are also given more depth. The characters are given more depth. So in order for Captain Hook to hate Peter Pan to the point of annihilating him, revenge about cutting off his hand and that being replaced by Hook just seems a bit too far-fetched. Okay, so I like the fact that they gave him a backstory, turning Captain Hook into the first ever lost child.
I didn't just leave Neverland.
Peter made you go.
There it is.
And then how his relationship with Peter turned out, and how it got to the point where Peter basically banished him from Neverland because he said that he missed his mother so much. And I think that's where a lot of people have a problem with it as well, because people weren't happy with the fact that Peter Pan has basically become sort of the antagonist in this situation. Putting Peter in such an antagonistic position while making the viewer sympathize with Hook may be why a lot of people were outraged at this depiction of Peter Pan, because that is inherently evil. How could he punish a boy for missing his mother? Simply so. Why would Peter do that? But the thing is, it's not just based on the Disney original movie, it's also based on the book, and I wouldn't say that Peter is downright cruel in the original story, but Peter is reckless. Peter isn't the most sensible kid because he's just a child. He literally doesn't grow up, which means he emotionally never matures, never learns. Because Peter also in the original story doesn't remember a lot of the things. He doesn't remember people or events, a couple of days after they've happened, because Peter doesn't just physically not grow up, Peter also doesn't grow up emotionally. So for Captain Hook to be the first lost boy, it makes sense that Peter depended on him a lot emotionally and everything, and that meant a lot to Peter, in this interpretation of Peter Pan and Wendy. So for Hook to say that he misses his mother, it could be possible that Peter saw it as a way of Hook, his best friend, rejecting him by saying that he wants to go back and that he misses his mother. It is possible Peter reacting very much like a stung child with a lot of power, with immortality and Neverland and magic and flying and stuff, was just fine, if you want to go back so bad, just go back. I banish you, from Neverland so you can go back. Besides, he's done this same banishment tactic to Tinkerbell in the original film as well.
Tinkerbell, I hereby banish you forever.
Please, not forever.
Well, for a week then.
I will agree that in that movie, the grievance was a lot more, since Wendy could have been seriously hurt when Tinkerbell was involved. However, he still didn't hesitate to banish Tinkerbell. It was Wendy that softened him up, that was just okay, don't banish Tinkerbell for life. I know that she meant me harm, but please, this has been your friend who's been with you since forever. And then he's just okay, for a week then. So Peter Pan is like a nonsensical child with a little too much power, and that's what happened. So I kind of buy the fact that he did banish Hook at one time. And I like that storyline because it gives their relationship, it gives the character of Hook and Peter a little bit more depth. And in this, both versions of Disney, in this live action and the original, in both those versions, Peter is able to retain his memory. So that's something that they didn't take from the classic tale. So this shows Peter is able to learn from past events and past mistakes, and he's able to apologize for things. So I like that take, that because Peter lived forever and ever doesn't always mean that he was always good. Peter has made some mistakes in his life, and he's better for it because he's recognizing them, learning to acknowledge them, and then apologize for them. I really like that take, especially the scene where, Peter tells Hook, where Hook is about to fall, that, think of something happy, and Hook just says,
Gotcha.
Oh,
Just think happy thoughts.
I haven't got any.
That scene broke my heart. This also gives way to this theory of Peter believing that if you grow up evil. That's also another reason Peter is afraid of growing up, because he sees Hook grown up, he sees Hook all changed. So Peter's interpretation of a grown up is Captain Hook. And that's why he doesn't want the Lost Boys or Wendy to leave, because then if they grow up, they're going to grow up like Hook. I really like that little detail, it adds like this like franticness to Peter's character, that I can't let these people that I care about grow up. Because if something like that comes to pass, then that means everybody that he's ever cared about is going to end up like his best friend James, aka Hook. So I think that adds like this whole sense of tragicness to it, that Peter has never had a chance to interact with any positive, healthy adults. He's only had to deal with Hook, and that is his interpretation of what adulthood means. That's why he's so afraid of growing up. Not only that, I really appreciated the relationship between Wendy and Tinkerbell, which in the book is also like she's very jealous of Wendy. That's also what happens in the classic Disney version as well. However, in this one, I like the relationship as it sort of like goes over. Also, can we talk about how there are so many cool scenes in this movie? Pirate song, oh my goodness, that I think is my favorite part. They have two pirate songs in the movie, and both times it is just so good. I've been listening to them nonstop ever since I finished the movie, and I just need my own crew to belt it out with. Like, it's so fun. Other than that, another complaint that I've been hearing over and over again is that Neverland looks so dull as compared to the original Disney version, where it was colorful and bright and full of colors. Now it's just so dull. Main criticisms that people have with Disney's Little Mermaid as well is because they have to make everything so realistic, they have to make it dull. So people didn't like that about the Little Mermaid. We'll see how that one goes, but they definitely didn't like how Neverland looks in this Peter Pan film. And I actually would like to remind everybody that it does say at the end credit scene that it's based on the original story and the prior Disney film. So yes, the Disney film is full of colors and everything, but the original one is much more dark and sinister. And I just like to read like a passage from the book of like when the Darling children first see Neverland. And this is when the Darling kids come across Neverland, and it is nighttime. In the old days at home, the Neverland had always begun to look a little dark and threatening by bedtime. Then unexplored patches arose in it and spread. Black shadows moved about in them. The roar of the beasts of prey was quite different now, and above all, you lost the certainty that you would win. You were quite glad that the night lights were on. You even liked Nana to say that this was the mantelpiece over here, and that Neverland was all make-believe. Of course, the Neverland had been make-believe in those days, but it was real now, and there were no night lights. And it was getting darker every moment. And where was Nana? So you can see that there is a sinister side to the island that is never explored in the original Disney film. And I like the fact that the producers and the directors basically decided to go with this route and actually give Neverland like a more duller, more realistic, more darker, edgier tone to it, because it already exists, and it's something that isn't necessarily commonly explored. So I like the directors taking their own vision and just like transforming that into a more realistic Neverland. Of course, this is a story that has been told time and time again, so I really can't fault the writers or the directors to come up with something new. And I think in this case it works. It's a more realistic retelling of Peter Pan than the one that we've seen before, and I really like it. Neverland isn't always rainbows and sunshines. Neverland isn't always safe. There are two other things with Wendy's character that I'd like to address before moving on, because it's talked about a lot in painting the fact that she's so unlikable is, during the last battle scene where she becomes an expert fighter. And is able to battle with multiple pirates at a time, which I was just like, okay, this is like getting a little into ridiculous territory. It's just like too ridiculous at a point where how is she so experienced than a bunch of experienced sailors? So I will like give it that Disney should have reeled it back in. Like that was like a little bit too much, too fast. Like where did Wendy even pick up all of these skills? And the second one is when Wendy slaps Peter. They come to Neverland, pirates attack them with cannonballs, okay? They get blasted separately. Wendy's distorted. She can't find her brother. She can't find Peter. She's alone. Then she finds these lost boys who half of them are hostile towards her. And she's worried sick about her brothers who have been captured by pirates. And then Peter just shows up, waltzes up to her, and he's just like, oh, good, you're alive. And Wendy goes up to him and slaps him. Like, yes, that is warranted. People just keep taking it out of context. And it's just like, oh, look, she's a girl boss and she's slapping the masculinity out of him. And it's just like, oh my God, context matters. Like, stop taking things out of context. If somebody did that to me, I would also slap them, regardless of their gender. Obviously, it will not even come close to how much I love the original Disney film. And I'm so glad I'll always have that. But for an interesting take on a darker Neverland with more in-depth characters, I think this was a good try. Like, I think this was, not that bad. As far as remakes go, this was like a decent one. And as for people absolutely hating on it, y'all need to chill. It's not even that bad. I genuinely don't understand all of the hate, and I've tried my best to address my point of view as well. Of course, it obviously lacks the heart that the original one has, which will never be replicated, which is why we have the original. But this was like a good try. To say that it is the worst thing out there, do not even believe that that is true. So yeah, it lacks heart, but it wasn't that bad. It was like a good time. I would never watch it again, but it had some cool CGI shots, some really inspiring moments, the pirate song, the scenes with Captain Hook. Wendy was like pretty decent. If they just got a better person to play Peter Pan, I think it would have been a little bit better. But all in all, not that bad. So I'm not even mad that it happened. So that was my review of Peter Pan and Wendy. I hope you guys liked it. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. And if you guys really like this, please consider giving it a like and sharing it with anybody that you think might be interested.
Goodbye.